Welcome back to the Gridiron Grind. I'm going to talk about the latest Vikings and Eagles moves. There's some stuff to touch on, but I just got distracted first when we were jumping on here because it seemed like my computer is really cold. I was wondering why. Why is it so cold? I know why. I left all my windows open.
All right, that one was pretty good, Andrew.
Sometimes it's all about the delivery because the joke is different. The joke was like, why was the computer so cold? Because all their windows were still open. But you got to make it a story. That's what makes it more believable and catch people off guard.
You get way too much pleasure out of these jokes, though, Andrew. It's
I do.
just funny. Oh my gosh.
It's for everyone's enjoyment. I do it for the people.
Sure. Whatever you
Okay,
need to tell
well,
yourself, buddy.
where do we want to start?
Um, oh, you know what? I did want to talk about this in the last episode, so maybe if we could cover on it first.
Sure.
The Eagles made a surprising trade this week. They've traded for Andy Dalton,
Yes, they have.
and a little surprised that they didn't end up, offsetting any of the salary with the Panthers, that they're taking on the full salary. That was a little shocking to me. But it sounds like what they want to do is they want to leave Tanner McKee as the number two quarterback and then leave it open that if there's a potential to trade McKee, that they could do it.
Sure. That was my first thought is there must be some kind of Tanner McKee thought process of trading him because why wouldn't you have either McKee or Dalton be your three? That doesn't fully make a ton of sense unless one of them is going to be shipped out for some kind of compensation. So that was my first thought as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's another world too where they could trade Danny Dalton. Maybe someone's coming around asking for him for a sixth.
Sure.
That does happen. Howie Roseman's pretty good at taking bronze and turning it into silver and taking silver and turning it into gold. That's something he prides himself in when it comes to draft
Hmm.
capital. So we'll see. Because they did a few years ago sign Joe Flacco in free agency and then traded him back to the Jets. So I could
Hmm.
see something like that happening. Probably not. I think it's McKee. But teams
Sure.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of are we've talked about it before. I still think the New Orleans Saints make all the sense in the world. Kellen Moore has familiarity
Kellen
with
Moore.
McKee.
Hmm.
I think that could be a place where he could be happy. Depending on what the Raiders do, getting Mendoza, maybe they want someone that's a more, Josh McCown ish, um, Andy Dalton, but on the younger side ish quarterback. And I think McCown could or McKee could provide that to those teams. The Jets have been another team I've heard. I know they have Geno Smith, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Things could go rough in New York this year with Geno Smith, and they could decide that they want to have a different quarterback and trade for McKee. So, I've heard a lot of different rumors, but we will see what that looks like closer
Hmm.
to the draft. It's going to be a draft trade if they make it, unless it's in August. I think those are your two windows for McKee for trades.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's always injuries too. Some
Definitely.
quarterback could go down in training camp or preseason or something. Then the Eagles like, hey, Tanner McKee might not be as good as your guy, but it's much better than your backup. So let's talk. That could happen as well.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll
Well,
see. It's
since you start with the Eagles, do you just want to keep going? Because I think they
yeah.
made
I
like
mean,
4 or 5 moves, like low key moves, but they made some moves.
they made some moves, and I don't know. They've been okay. Like they're not bad. I just don't really know what to think about them. I think they're fine.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm trying to think of which one to cover first for the Eagles. What things we've talked about. The Damian Pierce move is probably the one I am the most intrigued by, but that one
Yeah.
that is like I'd say a semi high ceiling, like a semi like this could be cool ceiling, and a low floor. Um, just because of Damian Pierce falling off. And we talked about it right on the last podcast with HN, and I think that Pierce has hit that wall, and I don't know if he can recover. Um, so,
Yeah.
and that
I
happens
like him better than Dillon and AJ
definitely.
Dillon. I forgot where he went, the Panthers or something. Um,
Panthers.
but I do like him better than AJ Dillon. So as your three, it's not bad. It's not bad being a three.
Yeah, I mean it's respectable. It's
Hmm.
the part this is the part I like. Will Shipley to me has not been a great running back for the Eagles.
Sure.
And some of the selling was that hey, this fourth round Clemson running back is going to be a difference maker, and I don't think he has been. I think
Yeah.
he's been fine, but uh, man, if we could have Gainwell in that role instead of him, it would be
Hmm.
amazing. But Gainwell's off and doing great things, and that wasn't going to happen. That was not an option. So, all that to say, it's too bad that um, things haven't worked out better with Shipley. But I do like the fact that we brought in Damian Pierce to kind of challenge him.
Sure.
Other moves, the Eagles signed. Oh man, I hope I say this right. Arnold Ebiketie, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He's from the Falcons, but he's had a few 7-sack seasons, so or a
Hmm.
couple, I should
Hmm.
say. But he seems like a decent dart throw option, and that's really what the Eagles have prided themselves this offseason. They got Johnny Munt, which I think is the best number three tight end in the NFL.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
so
Hmm.
funny. They also signed Stone Smart. There's another tight end they're taking a flyer on. I think that's also another.
I had to
Yeah.
hold myself back from saying that joke in the chat. I was so ready to say, "Hey, this was a really smart move by the Eagles." I didn't do it though. I saved it for today. You're welcome.
Well, you'd have to put the double T in there to really make it more fun.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's but there is the Holiday Brown move. That's probably the one you were thinking of, and
Yeah.
I don't know how to feel about that move because if the Eagles bring him in as number three, it's an upgrade. Whatever we have with
Absolutely.
Jahan Dotson,
Yep.
it's an upgrade. And my preference is the Eagles to keep AJ Brown. I'm a big
Hmm.
believer in you don't give yourself dead cap unless you absolutely have to move on. And we don't have to move on from AJ Brown. The part that's tough is that AJ Brown just seems so determined to leave. And
Hmm.
dude, I don't understand it. I feel like buyer's remorse is going to hit him so hard for whichever team he goes to because he's I think he's a four-time Pro Bowler, two-time All Pro. Um, he's had great success, been to two Super Bowls. That doesn't happen. Like that doesn't happen everywhere. Like I'm saying this right now, Andrew. The Seahawks are not going back to the Super Bowl this year. I don't care what you say. Like I don't. My confidence that they could get back is like a 2%, but I don't see it. They're going to
Hmm.
regress. They lost Kenneth Walker, and they're going to really struggle. Um, I, I think they made a bad switch out with keeping Darnold and getting rid of Walker, but I've taken a lot of flack from my Seahawks friends for that. But I would have definitely made the swap out. Keep Walker, get a new quarterback.
Especially because Charbonnet is going to be hurt to begin the year.
Yeah, I mean they
He
have
tore
no
his, I think it was an
answer.
ACL in the
ACL
playoffs.
in the playoffs.
So, yeah.
Jinx. Um, yeah, I don't know. But if Holiday
Yeah.
Brown's coming in as if he's coming in as the number three wide receiver, love the move. It's like an A minus
Hmm.
B plus move. If they're thinking that he could be the number two when they get rid of AJ Brown, C minus. No way.
I
That's
am
not
right there
happening.
with you. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So we'll see. Um, I do think it's a good move. They didn't overpay him.
Hmm.
Like I think they're saying it's probably like a $3 million contract and up to 6.5 million is what I'm hearing.
Hmm.
So that's not a bad move. But I think that's a TBD for me. We'll see what they do. If they keep
Yeah.
AJ Brown, this is a legitimately good wide receiver um,
Hmm.
that could do some damage. We'll see if AJ Brown can get out of his own way.
Yeah. Yeah. To
Yeah,
me, this is kind of one of those things where they're showing their hand because, like you said, Hollywood Brown is not a two. And the Eagles front office is too smart to believe that he could replace AJ Brown and be your two. So to me, it's almost like they're playing their hand that AJ Brown is staying. Unless they get an offer they can't refuse, which if they get a one
Yes.
and a two, that's an offer you can't refuse. But just reading the tea leaves on the outside looking in, my guess is that offer isn't coming their way. So like, okay, we'll keep him. We'll have Hollywood Brown be our three, and that's a really good pass catching core because they kept Goddard too. So that's just my guess. Now, if like you said, if they do still trade Brown and then Hollywood Brown is their two, I don't see that unless they draft someone with that first round pick and they get a developmental, really talented, really high ceiling rookie wide receiver. All right, maybe something there. And maybe Hollywood Brown's the two to start the year. And then the rookie takes the place of Hollywood Brown. And maybe the rookie goes to the one. Who knows? But yeah, I'm with you overall with I don't see Brown, Hollywood Brown being their two. Being the three, absolutely. He's a really good three.
I'm just looking at. It's not bad. So I'm looking at it for next year out of AJ Brown. If the Eagles wait till June 1, after June 1 next year, they would get a $10 million savings by trading AJ Brown. Straight up 10 million savings. That to me feels more likely.
Sure.
Because even if they cut him before June, there's an $8 million deficit. Now that's not terrible. You can live with that. There's a $31 million dead cap hit, which still don't love. But if it's only $8 million lost net total, and you got a first and second round pick, or somewhere close to that, or second and
Sure.
fourth, it's more justifiable. But like, just to give people an idea, right now, dude, um a $20 million hit. No way. Why would you do that? That is just beyond dumb. Uh, yeah, I don't understand it. I don't get it, man. Don't get it.
Yeah.
So I think they should. Well, here's the other thing too. I would say about the Hollywood Brown trade. I would not be mad if the Eagles go into the season with AJ Brown as the starter. It's not working out. They have to trade him, right? Like they have to get rid of him, and then you put Hollywood Brown in that role. That to me is justifiable because you planned for it. You planned for it. You tried your best. It didn't work. Now you're moving on.
Hmm.
That to me sounds like a much better option than to just trade AJ Brown now and say, please, Marquise Hollywood Brown, return back to your rookie form. Like that's
Hmm.
not going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't pay him like a two either. They paid
No.
him like a three, four, $5 million
Yes.
dollars. That is not a wide receiver two money, not in this
No.
NFL. So yeah,
Yeah. So anyway, I think that that's the bulk of it for the Eagles, but not a bad offseason. The part I think is kind of like the underrated move, actually, besides that Damian Pierce is re-signing Braden Mann, the punter. Braden Mann, the punt, has been a great punter for the Eagles the past couple of years.
hmm,
Um, for people that don't remember, when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl the first time around, our punting situation was atrocious. We probably had one of the bottom five punters in the NFL. And the punt he had against oh man, what was the name of the kicker or the punt returner for the Aaron Sitboss? But he had that punt return in the Super Bowl that took it back to like the 35. Um, yeah, it was not a good scenario, and so having a better
hmm.
punter moving forward is going to be a big thing for the Eagles.
Yeah, special teams are really important. They're really important.
Yes, it does. So anyway, that's it for me on my part. But unless there's anything else you want to cover from the Eagles.
Don't think so. We're just kind of waiting around to see if any trade actually happens right now. Because I mean, they're signing some guys, but mostly are depth pieces like Damian Pierce, third string running back. Marquise Brown, probably the third string receiver, which he'll play some, but they're mainly depth pieces because all the best players are already gone. And they're waiting to see what the draft does. But I think the main thing for the Eagles is we're just waiting for that breaking news of any kind of trade happening. And is that going to happen? Maybe, maybe not. But I think that's where we're at right now with them.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. So, well, should we get to the Carson Wentz news?
No, first, there's more important news. The Vikings have signed Johnny the punter, Johnny Hecker. Let's go. 36-year-old Johnny Hecker, who was with the Rams whenever KOC was with the Rams too, and won a Super Bowl. So we're getting a Super Bowl winning punter. That's breaking news right there. That's breaking news. And he has a one touchdown to one interception ratio in his career. So it's not great, but that's not bad. It's 1-to-1.
Better, better than Max Brosmer.
Well, I mean, I hope that's better than third string quarterbacks who shouldn't be playing. That stat, and I saw it, I was like, so, I mean, that's like saying he has more touchdown passes than me. Yeah, he does.
Well, I think they're just saying that you can get rid of Max Brosmer now, and he can be your punter slash QB3.
Well, we now have four quarterbacks on our team, which we'll get to. Um, but on a real note, is this is actually a pretty good signing overall because we lost our punter. But the main
Mm-hmm.
thing for our punter with Ryan Wright, he was fine. He was a fine punter, got the job done. But the main thing he was doing was the holder. He was the holder for our kicker, Will Reichard, and Will Reichard had one of the best kicking seasons for the Vikings ever. And we really needed a good holder. And Johnny Hecker has shown that he can be a really good holder. Like there's clips out there of him doing a no look hold and their kicker nailed the field goal and he was like pointing to the line because
Yes.
literally he's getting the snap and he's counting and saying, "Hey, the defense has 12 people on the field," and he's literally holding it with one hand pointing. I was like, "Okay, you've got some talent holding the ball. That's the biggest thing." The punting side of it is important, but I don't think is as important as the holder because some people have their second string quarterback as the holder. We have our punter as our holder. And Will Reichard needed a holder that he could trust because Reichard was really good last year. And I don't want any issues with holding and having bad kicks and just, yeah. But he was a really good holder. And like he's done in his past, he can do a couple fake punts. So I don't know if KOC and our special teams coach wants to do that, but he has that ability to. So we'll see. But I did like the signing overall. 1 year deal, get us a punter. Cool. We don't got to worry about wasting a draft pick on a punter. Another thing that Minnesota did is we did a tender on a restricted free agent on a backup tackle from the Bills, Vandemark, which I think that's a low key good move because our O line depth was pretty bad last year. We had so many injuries. We just need to improve that. And the Bills have, I think, until Monday or Sunday to sign that tender and keep him. If not, we take him off their hands. And Vandermark played some starting snaps for them last year whenever some of their tackles got injured. So he has some experience, better depth than what we had. So I do like that move. Minnesota's been very quiet this free agency outside of securing one of the strangest quarterback rooms in the NFL. We have three top 10 picks, and talent wise, you could have the argument that Minnesota has one of the most talented overall quarterback rooms, but also probably one of the most dysfunctional. It it's wild. I'm not fully sure what they're doing. Some speculations out there that since they signed Carson Wentz as well, that maybe they are shopping JJ McCarthy. I really hope that's not the case, even if McCarthy's the three. If you look at the contracts, he's the only one under contract next year. And is Kyler Murray going to resign? Let's just say Kyler Murray has an average to above average year. Is he going to resign? There might be some desperate team offering him a huge contract. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to turn down 50 million a year from the Jets or whatever it is. And the Vikings might be offering 35 or 40, but he's like, I'm getting 50 over here. That very well could happen. And then are you trusting Carson Wentz to come back and be your one next year? No. So McCarthy is the only one under contract next year. I think that's very valuable. They better not ship him out for some fifth or sixth round pick garbage. Um, I would say they should keep him. I know the development wouldn't happen if he's the third string quarterback, which I don't even fully know if he would be. Like, would he be the two, and then Carson Wentz just wants to stick around? I don't know. That's we'll see during training camp. But even if McCarthy's the three, let him be the three. Let him be in that quarterback room, watch practice, practice with the third stringers, and then next year we can see where he's at. Because obviously they're done with him this year. That's been obvious for a while. And there's actually some reports going out there that they didn't even want him starting after the Falcons game last year, which is wild. I don't quite understand that. They were wanting Carson Wentz to play the rest of the year. And if Carson Wentz didn't get hurt in that Chargers game, he would have been the starter of the rest of the year. And I thought that was wild. That doesn't make much sense to me, but there must be something going on internally that the coaching staff does not like about McCarthy that we're not seeing. That's the only explanation. But overall, Carson Wentz got signed, which does show that McCarthy is absolutely not hitting the field outside of injury. But with that, all three quarterbacks on the roster have all been hurt last year. So I still think there's a chance that all three quarterbacks play next year at some point, which is going to be crazy. But this does mark the end of the Max Brosmer show. He's done. He's going to be cut. He might make the practice squad just to stick around, but yeah, I think this signing is showing that last year KOC did not trust at all Max Brosmer, and he didn't trust mostly JJ McCarthy. So he wants as much trust as he can because if you look at the team with probably the fourth worst overall quarterback play of the entire league, which has happened. Was that like a Thanos snap or something? Uh, that was strange.
I'm wearing
Um,
different clothing now, Andrew.
yeah, we have different clothes on, and it's yeah, I don't know what's going on, but we're here. It's almost like we had some technology issues and we couldn't get back to our recording and had to finish it up later in the future. I don't know. It's strange. It's strange.
That's one
Um,
theory, Andrew. One theory.
yeah, yeah. I mean that most likely not, but that's just something that people are saying. But to finish what I was talking about the Vikings quarterback room, is that last year Minnesota was basically a punt coverage, or not a punt coverage, but a kickoff coverage away from making the playoffs. Now, you could say if they covered that kick against the Bears and Minnesota wins that game, let's just say that they do. The last game of the year against the Packers truly matters, and the Packers wouldn't have had all their like second and third string players playing. So maybe the Packers win that game and they still get in. That's possible, absolutely. But all that to be said, that even with like bottom five overall quarterback play of the entire season that Minnesota had, they were a kickoff coverage away from making the playoffs, even with that. So if the Kyler Murray or an improved JJ McCarthy, or if some weird world Carson Wentz wins the starting job, whatever happens, if whoever the starter is this year for Minnesota is better than bottom five that we had overall last year, this is a pretty good team that could make some noise. We did lose some pieces, like we lost some defensive linemen, and our defense got a little older, and the whole overall team got a little older, absolutely, which they need to kill the draft this year. They've had horrible drafts for 4 straight years. I was hearing some stats that there's some like NFL nerds who I love. I love NFL nerds. I'm kind of one of them. But there are some NFL nerds out there that were collecting a bunch of data and having some kind of analytical number for every team's draft in the past 4 years in multiple different analytical areas. Minnesota is like dead last for all 32 teams in the draft as far as players contributing and players signing extensions or all that stuff. Minnesota's draft's been terrible the past 4 years. So if Minnesota can have an average draft, above average would be awesome. But if they can have an average draft with they have 4 picks in the top 100, awesome. 4 selections in the top 100, great. If at least two of those, maybe even three, could be legitimate starters in areas of need. And then a Kyler Murray or a JJ McCarthy can be better than bottom five in the NFL. Watch out because our schedule is easier than last year. We had like the 11th, I think. I think last year it was like top five. It was crazy how difficult it was. But I think our schedule this year is like the 11th most difficult. I think the Packers got a little worse, not a lot worse, but a little worse because they lost some pieces. They lost Dobbs. I think the Lions are kind of the same because they improved their defense, but they did lose from Montgomery to Pacheco. And then the Bears, it's hard to say how they're going to be because they have some good draft pick, like draft equity. So they could kill the draft. They could be better too. But I think they kind of got some puck luck with the turnovers and those fourth quarter comebacks, which
Mm.
can't expect that. So I don't know. I think Minnesota has a shot, but it all depends on if we can get better than bottom five quarterback play. And with the quarterbacks, I've been hearing that it's not just Murray's job. There's a lot of talk out there that KOC wants a actual competition. Now, with that, Kyler Murray's not going to sign here if he knows it's a legitimate, true competition. I think he has the leg up. He has like the start, like the gun fired off on the horse race. Everyone else is just sitting back there looking, and he's running down the track, and then everyone else starts like 3 seconds later. That might be kind of what it is. He's a fast tracked into this competition. It's like a 70-30 his job kind of thing, but it's not guaranteed. And I'm hearing a lot of things that McCarthy has been grinding this offseason with like best of the world mechanic trainers. And it's I like what I'm hearing. So I think that this quarterback battle's gonna be interesting. If I had to bet, I would bet on Murray because he's proven it longer, and he's not going to sign somewhere where he's just going to be the backup. But I don't think it's just given to him either. And if it's not given to him, if JJ McCarthy wins it, then it also proves that he's improved and he could handle the starting job this year, which is what we all wanted to begin with. So it's going to be very interesting. And then the last thing I'll touch on, as far as the draft is concerned, I've been hearing a couple things, and I think it's perfect, exactly what they need. That there's a couple positions that they have their eyes on early, and that's defensive tackle and running back, which is exactly what they need because they tried to get like a high quality free agent running back this year. They were after Etienne or Achan or whatever his last name is. They were after
Mhm.
him, and they didn't get him. Cool. He decided to sign with the Saints. That's his decision. Awesome. We'll move on. And so that's why we brought back Aaron Jones for that really cheap contract. Like, hey, we just need a guy in the room, and then we're gonna spend a higher draft pick on a running back. It's not gonna be a Jeremiah Love. We all know that. He's gonna be top five probably. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cardinals took him at three or something. That wouldn't
Mhm.
shock me. But could we get a second round running back like a Jonah Coleman or an Emmett Johnson? Absolutely. And they could eventually be our starter. I don't think they would be given the job out the gate, but they would win it week five, week six kind of thing. I could see that happening. And as far as defensive linemen, we've had a lot of visits. We're talking about having visits with some D linemen, like I think Cade McDonald, we're having a visit with. He's like a first round draft pick possibility. So could we take a legit D tackle in round one? Absolutely. I'm totally on board with that. And another one we're talking about is wide receiver three. We're wanting a
Mhm.
legit boundary wide receiver three, not a slot guy. We want Addison to be in the slot, and we want a wide receiver, like a big guy, like a Mike Evans type of like taller,
Like Kenyon
lanky.
Sadiq. Mhm.
That's a
Mhm.
tight end. No,
I think he could be a big bodied receiver. I've seen it, man. I
maybe,
watched him play. I watched him play in
maybe.
person. He could do it.
Maybe. It's possible. I think we're more looking at the Ted Hurst kind of guy from, I think he's from Georgia Tech. He is like 6'4", 6'5". He's fast, just like Sadiq is, and he can win those jump balls. That's kind of what we're looking at. Kind of like what Jalen Naylor was, honestly. We're just wanting a replacement for Jalen Naylor. And all that talk I've been hearing from legitimate sources is exactly what I want to hear. That's exactly what they need. The first four picks that we have in the top 100, if we don't trade down, which I would be totally for if we want to trade down. But what the four positions should be in whatever order they want to do, but it should be defensive tackle, it should be running back, it should be safety, and then it should be wide receiver. That is what I think the four picks in the top 100 should be. We'll see what happens. I love what I'm hearing, but that's what I got from Minnesota. Is there anything else you want to talk about the Eagles draft wise, or I think there might have been another trade that happened.
Yeah, they traded Sidney Brown. They traded fourth and sixth round picks with the Falcons. So it was, I think it's like 8 and 16 was the overall difference between the two picks.
Mm. Hmm.
Um, so it's definitely, I understand why people think it's a good trade for the Falcons, and I would agree it's a good trade. Um, they got I think the potential better end of the offer, but I think the Eagles looked at it as, you know, we learned this lesson the hard way back when Clay Matthews' brother came out of college. Can't remember his name. Do you remember Clay Matthews'
Mm.
brother's name?
Oh man, I don't remember.
But he came out from USC and Casey Matthews. So kind of like the Timu version of Casey or of Clay Matthews. And he never panned out, man. We thought we could get him, but
Yeah.
it's the same thing with Chase Brown and Sidney Brown. Chase Brown is not Sidney Brown, and Sidney Brown is not Chase Brown. And
Hmm.
it's not the fact that Sidney Brown can't be a good player. His problem is that mentally, man, there's been so many times where you're like personal foul, really big personal foul, gets ejected, or just if he could get things upstairs organized and figured out, he could do it. But he just has mental moments where you're like, dude, you can't do that. You just
Hmm.
totally um
Oh, God
oh,
bless you.
sorry. But he can't you just can't make mistakes like that. And it ruins any
Yeah.
potential that you did get. Um, so we'll see what happens. On that note, I'm hearing a lot of buzz about Darius Cooper becoming the new wide receiver for three for the Eagles. And
Oh, you mentioned that last year, I think. Yeah.
I could see it. Here's my problem is I feel like he's in the same Sidney Brown conundrum. I see potential. I see ability to
Hmm.
win and get balls, but he makes really bad mistakes with flags. There was
Mm.
one against the Commanders where he got like a taunting penalty and it really hurt the
Mm.
Eagles.
Can't do
And it's
that.
like, dude, you cannot do that. And people kind of let it go as like, he's just a rookie. I don't know. You got to be really careful about those taunting penalties because
Hmm.
they come back to bite you really fast. Now, is the NFL overly aggressive on taunting? Yes. But I mean, the way I look at it is if you're driving five over the speed limit and there's three cops in the area, whose fault is it that you got a ticket?
Hmm.
Is it the person that was driving five over, or is it the cops for being overly aggressive?
Man, you only see people driving five over there.
Oh
I see
no,
people like
the
15, 20 over
way
here.
faster, way faster. No, it's way. I just meant for an example, right? Like a
Gotcha, gotcha.
reasonable, like
Yeah.
there's no way that you could argue with an officer for pulling you for driving 10 over. You can't argue that. You know it.
Hmm.
You drove 10 over, but five's typically that gray area of like,
Sure, sure.
did I really capture that right speed? No, no, 10. You're like, I got that. You know,
Hmm.
it's kind of like the pass interference calls, right? Like there's some like, he threw the guy down. That's a pass interference. And there's other ones you're like,
Hmm.
was it? Anyway.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you got to be smarter about that. So there's that piece. Um, the Eagles, I think, are probably. I want to make a prediction, Andrew. I thought about this. I've really,
Okay.
really thought about it. I think
Exciting.
AJ. I think AJ Brown stays in Philly.
Okay. Okay.
I've thought about it a lot. I went over a lot of the information in my head. I think they get. I think they keep him, and then I think, depending on how this year goes, they trade him next year. That's my thought process right now.
That would
Um,
make some sense because his hit on the cap negatively on you guys would be less if you did it next year. Yeah, I can see that.
yeah. So we'll see what happens. That's my guess right now. Um, there are benefits if they trade him next year. There's a huge cap hit this year, but that's
Hmm.
mitigated next year. So we'll see how that goes. But that's kind of what I'm predicting right now. I think that Hollywood Brown is a good third receiver.
Yeah.
So we'll see if that pans out. They also signed a receiver this week. Was it Elijah Moore?
Yeah, yeah, and he's had some moments of decent play. So that's a good depth receiver.
If he's the
Which is
fourth
good because
receiver,
for sure, yeah, and
yeah,
because Holly Brown, he's had injury issues in the past. So Elijah Moore stepping in to be a three, I think he could do that.
yeah. So I think that's reasonable. We can see how that goes. You
Hmm.
talked about draft needs. I tight end. We talked about it. Kenyon Sadiq. If he falls to 23, I am.
That I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles, with their extra draft capital, kind of just trade up to like 18, a little small jump if there's a team ahead of them, which I don't know if there is. I haven't really spent that much time on it yet, but if there is a team ahead of them, they think they might draft him. Let's jump above them and take him. I could see that happening. I don't see Sadiq being drafted in like the top 12. I think that's a little high, but in that 12 to 20 range, it's very possible. And I could see a little trade up. I could see that being a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think it's. I was off of it after the Dallas Goedert signing. I thought, oh, it's not going to happen. But now I'm kind of back
Hmm.
on it because his value seems to be coming down slightly. I wouldn't say it's
Sure.
like free falling. I think what it is, it's a matter of. I talked about it with a friend last night. It's the reorganization of priorities for teams. And as you look at the
Hmm.
reorganization, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for teams higher to go for him. They've got too many other needs that are
Sure.
bigger needs. I think that
Hmm.
that's what is dictating it right now. I think a lot of people throw out the Kyle Pitts example of why he should be drafted higher. Well, I would argue that the Falcons in that window had justifiably a good chance to still compete and took a chance by drafting Kyle Pitts to have like a luxury of benefits, luxury of
Hmm.
assets, and it just didn't work out. Um, so, but yeah, so I think that's kind of where we're at right now on the draft thing. I do think they need an offensive tackle. That's another part that they need to look at. Um,
Yeah.
but my argument is, unless you're drafting a Lane Johnson in the first round, like you really believe that, don't waste the
Hmm.
first round pick on tackle. I think you can get quality tackles later in the draft. I think it's harder to
Yeah.
find quality tight ends. If you find a tight end you like, you got to take him.
Hmm.
Dallas Goedert's a perfect example. Zach Ertz is a perfect example. You got to take him within the first 3 rounds if you really want a game changing tight end.
Hmm.
Um, it's harder to find those that can make a difference later in the draft. So that's kind of one thing I'm monitoring right now. Um, so we'll see on that part. We do need an edge, like we need an edge rusher. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. You haven't really picked anyone up after the Phillips signing.
yeah, they picked up Ebiketie from uh,
Yeah.
the Falcons, and it's okay. It's like
Hmm.
we'll see. I have no idea what to expect. I know he's had some sacks. I just think you're making a mistake if that's what you're going to do. Now, I did hear the Eagles are at some point going to bring Brandon Graham back, which is kind of surprising. I didn't think he was going to come back, but it sounds like he's going to be a part of the Eagles team in some capacity. I don't know if that's as a practice squad player and then calling him up. I mean, Brandon Graham's been open to a lot of things, and
Hmm.
um, so we will see what that looks like. But he wants to be involved with the team for a 13th season. I think he's trying to work his way up the Eagles sack record chart. I can't remember how many he's
Yeah.
behind. I think he's like 5 away from the next one. So there's a chance that he could
Hmm.
get to that sack mark this year and then become like the third um, most high Eagle with sacks. Like the third highest in Eagles history
Hmm.
for sacks
Hmm.
by a defensive end. So I think if I'm remembering that right. So there's that piece to it. I think everything else is kind of subjective, right? I could still see us justifying taking a wide receiver three. I think at this point, I would say that that's like a day three move. Um,
Hmm.
someone you're looking at that has flashes of potential, right? They're showing something that you think you could be interested in. One I think that could surprise people is beginning in the third round, maybe the Eagles take a quarterback. I could see it.
Okay. Who do you think they
Um,
have their eyes on?
that's a really good question. Um, I just want to look at the list of options real quick to see who I
Hmm.
was thinking of in particular. I think it's going to depend on how the draft falls. Does anyone drop that? Um, Taylor Green was the one that came to my mind first. I remember thinking about that, and I thought someone with a lot of upside doesn't have maybe
Hmm.
the best arm, but has potential. Um, so I think Taylor Green. I don't think he'll be there, but maybe Garrett Nussmeier. If it's the third round and he's there, watch out for it. I guess that's what I would say is,
Hmm.
keep that on your radar. It could be something that makes sense. So, but we'll see. There's still a lot of moving parts. I don't think they go for someone like Carson Beck. I don't think they go for someone like Simpson. I don't think those moves make sense. But I do think
Yeah.
that if Nussmeier falls because the draft board's just not shifting his way and he gets to the third round, because the Eagles have a high third round pick with the New York Jets pick. Um, so do they look at it? Do they do that? Maybe. I think it's possible. So we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And if that happens, who's the odd man out in the quarterback room? Is it
I think it's
Dalton? Is it
McKee.
McKee?
I
Yeah.
think it's McKee. And I think that those are all contingent, right? The Eagles don't make that trade or that draft pick unless they feel like they have a trade partner. But I do
Sure.
think it is possible. I think it's possible that they go that route. Um, but yeah, I mean, there definitely are not a lot of signature quarterbacks in this NFL draft. Like it's not like
Hmm.
it's not a great upfront quarterback draft. It's also not a great quarterback draft. Like
Hmm.
I do think
Yeah.
is it Drew Aller, is that his name from Penn State? He's also another
Yeah.
interesting option.
Hmm.
Um, if he's available late, which I think he will be, I think that's another potential person that could make sense. Um, so we'll see. But that's some things that I'm keeping on my radar as far as for position
Okay.
needs right now.
Okay. Yeah. I can safely say that Minnesota is not looking at a quarterback right now because their quarterback room is full. They still have Max Brosmer on the in the quarterback room, which I don't even know if he's going to make the team. Probably not. So, well,
Practice squad, maybe.
yeah, yeah. If no one else picks him up, because he had so much good tape out there.
Your GM thought so.
Ex GM. Well, now he's with the 49ers.
Oh,
Maybe the 49ers scoop him up because he's like, hey, you got to go get this guy.
I mean, the 49ers did take Bryce Huff off our hands. That was a
Hmm.
miraculous situation. The fact that we got anything for Bryce Huff. When I saw that Bryce Huff got traded, I was like, wow, we really lucked out there because that could have been bad. We just had to release Bryce Huff without anyone to come trade for him. So
Yeah.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, the NFL draft is less than a month away now. So
Wow.
it's it's getting close. It is
Can I
getting
just,
close. And yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add one note. I hate that they release the schedule after the draft now.
You want it before the draft?
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely. I would love that. I feel like that April is one of like the biggest lull months for me. I don't know. I feel like that when we get to May, I'm already like, yeah, football's done for a while. Like I'm done. Like we could just all take off and
Hmm.
I don't need it to be dragged out to like May 15th for the schedule release. Just give it to me in April. That's
Hmm.
when I liked it. But
That's fair. That's fair because right after the draft, there's rookie camp. So there's a little bit of like actual football practice out there. You can gain a little bit of nuggets in, and then there's mini camps and there's OTAs. All that stuff is right after that. So
yep,
the schedule release being in May, maybe not as necessary. I can see that. Do some excitement, like do it April 10th schedule release kind of thing.
that's what they used to do, man. Loved it.
Yeah.
April used to be like one of the months for me. Like loved that between the
Hmm.
schedule release and the draft. But yeah,
Yeah.
so
Well, we'll have to do some mock drafts, kind of like we did last year with like the first
definitely,
round, and
definitely.
see how that goes, and maybe even do like one at a time, full 7 round mock drafts for the Eagles and then for the Vikings, one at a time. We'll see if we want to get into that because that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Well, that's it for me on my end, man. So nothing else I
Yep.
was hoping to
Same
cover.
here. Yeah, it's really weird being in the future like we are now, but hey, we made it happen. We landed the plane.
We sure did. Well done, everybody. Let's give a round of
Yes.
applause. That's really Herculean effort by everybody. So everyone take a moment, celebrate, feel good about
hmm
yourselves.
hmm
Throwing the emojis up if you can't see
We
everything.
got there. Yes, we got there. Proud of us. Well, thank you guys for joining us in this really interesting and exciting episode of the Gridiron Grind with Andrew and Lance. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see everybody.